Well, I'll go ahead and get started here. Chris is really going to be running most of the show, but first I just want to say hello to everyone and thank you very much for being a part of our interesting training. I think we're all getting pretty used to this version of meeting now. Really, the point we're here today is to make sure that all of you have the opportunity to get onto your web pages, whether it be for your department or for your building, and make the necessary changes to keep us all up to date. Chris will be going through all of the different pieces where you can make those changes. There are certain parts of the website that are kind of locked in place, and if there were any changes needed in those areas, that's where you would reach out to Chris or I. But there are sections that you will be able to update whenever you have the time. This website is very user-friendly. It is intuitive. If you think, oh, I'd like to add a news section, right there, add news is what it says. It's very easy to get through if you've ever done any kind of social media. And if you did actually work on our last website, this will be a breeze for you. So we will go through those steps. We will work on how to add news, how to add pieces into the calendar. These are going to be very important sections. The way that our calendar works now, they can actually talk to each other. Parents can decide that they want to pull up a calendar and modify for just their two schools. So they can make it much more appropriate for their lives. They don't have to scroll through days and days of work. They can also subscribe to that calendar. They can subscribe to news as well. So this is another reason why keeping those things up to date will be very important. Just as you guys know, a calendar is only good as the minute you hit enter or print, just like a budget. So the best we can to keep those things updated will be very helpful. So the same goes for the news section. We're not asking you to create anything different than you've done before, but if you do have a weekly, bi-weekly newsletter or any important updates you're emailing out to your families on Blackboard, that can also be updated to the uploaded to the news section. That's important for us because we do have a Band-Aid on the Blackboard speaking to both our virtual and remote for one particular building. But this will just be one more way for a parent who may be in the virtual academy who updated their email and forgot to tell our office. They can still see what's going on at Haviland or Grayson or wherever it may be. So I'm going to hand it off to Chris, and he's going to start going through the process. If you have questions along the way, Chris, I didn't ask you this, but they are allowed to interrupt you?
Absolutely. Whatever's going to work best for people, really. We want to, both Kelly and I want to be here today to support you. Obviously in our communication endeavors to make sure that the parents and members of the school district community have every opportunity to get information efficiently. And that's really, that was our goal in developing this website. So absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, very good. Well, Chris, it's all you.
Okay, so let's just take a look at the agenda. The teacher part of me likes to go over everything in the broad scope of what we're going to cover today so that you are aware of what's happening. We'll cover, and again, these times may be approximate, but we're going to try to cover primary things like looking at your web page, what it looks like from the public viewpoint, what it looks like behind the scenes, how you edit text in a certain area, potentially adding photos, and then general rules and expectations. Most of this web engine, as Kelly sort of alluded to before, is sort of locked in, which means that you can't change many colors or anything like that. A lot of that stuff is predetermined so that the website is ADA compliant, and we'll cover the federal guidelines briefly too as a part of that. So we're going to go over editing basic web pages. We're going to talk about adding and modifying calendar events and news events, which are the three primary components of what we're going over today. There will possibly be additional layers added later, like adding photo galleries and such like that, but a lot of that, what we wanted to do today was just give you the basics. The other thing I will ask as a favor is as we get into a little bit later the permissions portion when you log in as yourself, I'll just have anybody let me know. I think I've made the permissions pretty clear based on your submissions for permission requests. But if someone can't see the content that they think they should be seeing today, we'd like to use this time to try to address that so that everybody's really good to go moving forward in the permissions area. I think Kelly and I didn't really talk about this, but I think the plan is to leave that Webmaster directory form available. So if there's someone new in your building that you'd like us to know about that it needs to become access to the website, we will continually look at that and try to update those people for permissions purposes. The second part, we're going to give you a chance to open your the page tree and the sort of the web admin portion of that, checking your permissions and looking at for necessary page content. I'll give you a chance to look at some basics to practice a little bit on your pages in the content areas we're giving you. We'll run through questions, and then of course the last part, Kelly and I can stay back with anybody who wants additional assistance, has questions. And again, feel free to interrupt me at any point if we're going too quickly or whatever we need to do to adjust. Are there any questions before I start? Or rather, what questions do you have for me? Okay. What I want to start with is just what a typical website looks like. So this, I'm just using Beaumont today as my example. Typically a page, and at the high school and middle school levels, you'll see a little bit more content. A lot of that is not necessarily the webmaster's responsibility. It deals with a lot of district elements. But you see an about page. This page contains the principal's welcome message and any other content that the building has added, as well as at the bottom, the spotlights and news archives from other sections. And they are all sort of mixed together, and we'll show you that a little bit later.
Hey, Chris, before you go any further, it looks like Alex needs to get in. I don't know if there's anyone else who's looking to get in as well.
Oh, I let Alex in, but Jennifer's coming in now.
Again, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
Everybody. Alex is here, I think, now too. Yep.
Okay, good.
Perfect. Welcome,
Thank
Alex.
you. Sorry.
And I know it doesn't work in that room.
The Our Staff, and this is a really good note, the Our Staff page you won't have access to. This is actually information that is directly pulled from Business Plus
and that's from either.
in the
So
system called Active Directory. This data with staff is pulled and synchronized every single evening on our server, but it does match the information that our HR or your buildings actually update regarding staff. So if you see someone in there that shouldn't be, HR is probably your first stop to just double check on the data. I know there are a couple of situations where people appear in multiple buildings for whatever reason, and so the data might still be accurate, but just something to know. The academics tab, as well as the schools tab, those are both district items that you won't have access to. That's just predetermined by the primary district website. Under parents and students, the page that you will have access to is the school newsletters page, which is also linked to the same information. Essentially, you're going to post only to one place, and it goes to both this location here for school newsletters, where there's a page by itself, and on your main primary homepage, next to the calendar, there's a news item here that parents can click on, and that same list is in both places. So if they go to the parents tab, they can get it there. One of the things over the summer when Kelly and I and our team developed the structure for this, we really wanted parents and community members to be able to access this information and some of the essential items from multiple places, depending on their mode of thought or the way that they were thinking. Also in the middle of your page, you'll notice that there's a calendar. And as Kelly mentioned, this calendar actually can be viewed one of two ways. It can be viewed in a list format showcasing the next upcoming series of events. That's a little bit long. You can actually change the number of events that occur there if you don't want it to be as long. And you can also view it in calendar format. So every day that has an event that is located, that has an event located on it, is bolded and underlined. So you can see, you can click and it will show you the event or a series of events that come up on that day. So parents have multiple views. The other cool thing about the calendar, as Kelly mentioned too, is that the calendar, although it looks like one calendar on the school's page, it's actually a blended calendar with other calendars. So for example, everything that is a district event, and I will stress this again later, if it is a district event, like even a parent-teacher conference that's across all buildings or a series of buildings, these are events that you are not individually responsible to put on your calendars. In fact, if you do, they will end up showing up twice, because this is right now showing you Beaumont's calendar and the district calendar together or blended. So that's a good point to note. Does anybody have any questions about the web page overview in terms of just the school page itself?
I do, Chris.
Go ahead.
As it relates to our staff, I get a ton of calls from the schools saying that so-and-so isn't in their building or should be on their page. Do you know exactly what field it's pulling the data from in Business Plus?
Well, what happens is from Business Plus, it's translated to a tool called Active Directory. And our computer technician, our computer network manager, Ian Vanderelzen, has been working with me closely on that project. I don't know the exact field it's coming from, but Ian is one of our go-to people, and I can ask him to clarify which field that is. Are you able to edit that field in the buildings as well without going to HR?
Me? No.
Okay. I wasn't sure if the office managers had access to those records. So HR probably is our go-to. So Kelly and I will get with Ian and HR and try to label both of those fields, or all the fields that are required, so that we can try to narrow down some of the issues where there might be discrepancy.
Okay, and you did touch on it briefly, but I think it's important to reiterate, especially so that the principals know, for those, especially the specials, the music teachers, Spanish teachers, gym teachers, those types of folks that are assigned to multiple buildings, we can't put multiple buildings in the system, so they're only going to show up at one location.
Correct, and that was one of the things that we had to sort of accept based on this current system as it pulls it in. It's possible we can work with the company Foxbright that helped us work with design the website in the future to try to navigate that. But initially, that was one of our questions, and that's one of the troubled areas, I suppose you might say.
Okay, all right. I just don't want people to assume the records are wrong.
Sure. Well, and I know that this isn't a direct solution, but everybody actually, and this is the next thing I was going to cover, the links at the top here, everybody has access to, is in the staff directory, the actual staff directory as a whole. So if someone was looking for someone and they knew by name, if they knew them by name, they will show up in the staff directory up top if they do a search. So it's not a solution, but it is one way possible where you might still locate a staff member if you needed to. Did I address all your questions? Okay. So on every page of the district website, regardless if you're on a school page or the home page, these links occur at the top, the district home, just to go to this main primary district page. The calendar, which will take you to the entire district calendar, which encompasses all 29 district calendars that were made, including athletics. The academics tab houses information about our current return to learn plans, as well as advanced and extended learning opportunities, the curriculum, the virtual academy, and all of the programming that we offer, reading programs, the online services, the career and technical education, etc. None of this you are responsible for. These are all district tabs, including athletics, the arts, the district parent links, the community parent links, and then of course the schools. So all of these things show up everywhere. The last piece to that puzzle would be the intranet, which Kelly sent out this morning, about the quick guide about all of the internal content, which we're going to start there in just a minute. The search, and then of course some of the quick link items that are easily found in quick links. Does anybody have any questions about a school page or the district homepage before I get into actual content? Okay, please again, just stop me at any time if you have questions. So we're going to go to the intranet next, and by doing that, there are a series of links here based on, everything is in one place based on department. So if you're looking for resources or tools, healthcare information, payroll information, technology information, all of that is here by category. And this last category here is for webmasters. There are 3 documents I'm going to overview today, which will help us in our training. These you will have permanent access to going forward. And of course, they will be updated. If they are updated, you'll see the most recent stuff. This first one is the Webmaster Quick Guide. This is the one we're going to use for training today. It sort of outlines the 3 primary pillars of what I want to show you. The second one is a training guide that was developed by our developer, Foxbright. And I do have to put a plug in here about Foxbright, and I think Kelly may echo this. The company has been stellar, up and down, responsive to all of our questions and our needs. I have not had a better experience with a technology company in my experience with technology in this district, which has been 20 years. So I have to just put out there that this company is fantastic. In fact, part of what you'll see in the internal engine is a support feature where if you're having questions and you can't reach one of us, you can ask the company directly and they get back to you. So That's another added feature. The last piece here is the ADA compliance checklist. This we're just going to just briefly overview at the end today, but just so that to make you aware of the features and things about a website that we need to have, and most of the stuff on the engine right now is set to go for that, so that you really can't mess that up. Only a couple of areas just to make sure that we are compliant with all federally mandated guidelines regarding hearing and seeing for the blind and for the hearing impaired. In any event, I'm going to jump to the Webmaster Quick Guide, which you will have access to both the PDF and the Google document, which I'm going to look at today. This sort of is a guide from start to finish about how to log in and some of the basic elements that we're going to go over today, and that you will be able to, of course, play with as you go. So this guide is intended to provide you an overview of the general website maintenance with a series of how-to instructions, along with elements about your responsibilities for your departmental or school website. So what I'd like to do is just really run through all this myself, and then we will give you a chance in part 2 to log in. But right now, for the purposes of right now, I'm just going to have you hold off from logging in so that we can get through this. The website address, which I will encourage all of you to create a bookmark for or a favorite in your browser so that you can refer to this at any time. This is the login link, which will take you to a page that I'm going to show you in a couple of minutes, where you're able to log in with your username and password on the district network. That is the same password and username you use for logging into the computer, and the same front part of the email address and password that you use for your actual email in Outlook. It is referred to as the Content Management System, or CMS for short. This is the entire system that houses all of the products that we will use to create and maintain web pages, calendars, and news items. So today we're going to look at web pages. We're going to look specifically at how to upload images and files to the server, uploading and creating calendar events and news items. So I'm going to review this quickly, and then I'm going to show you so that we cover it both ways. There is a menu that looks like this that will appear when you log in at the left, and you will see roundabout, you will see these items, which contain web pages, your images and files, your photo galleries, your calendars, your news, and your spotlights. And most of this you'll have access to, but specifically you're going to focus on the web page area, images and files, calendars, and news. Spotlights are handled right now at the district level, and I'll show you what those are after we get going, after we get through the rest of the stuff. Does anybody have questions? The teacher in me always stops every so often. Sorry for that, but okay. The web pages. In the menu, you will essentially click on the web pages, and then it will branch out to an item that says page tree. So I guess we'll go item by item, and I'll show you this. I'm going to run to the page. This is the login page or the admin page that you will see if you go to the web address that I listed in the document, which is wsdmi.org/admin, or this longer address will get you there too. What I've done is I've created a sample account that essentially is the webmaster at Beaumont Elementary, so you can see what the building sees. So I'm going to go ahead and log in here. And you'll notice a series on the main page of announcements. These are announcements direct from Foxbright about updates. Primarily, those are for Kelly and I and our team. These are just updates about management as a part of the system, but they're not blocked off, so you can see them as well. Here is the menu I spoke about. So the first item we're going to go through is the web pages. If I click on web pages here, I have two options here, search pages or page tree. Where you're going to want to work is the page tree. So if I click the page tree to the right side here, now I get the page tree, which is essentially how I'm going to navigate on the back end to a variety of pages. So essentially like a page tree, I'm going to just simply click on the pluses to break out the page tree into its phases, and it will show me as I go forward what I have access to. In this case, I have access to the schools at the elementary level, and I have specific access to Beaumont Elementary. And you'll notice, as I mentioned on the public side, I have access to the primary Beaumont homepage, which is located right here. I have access to the About Us page, which houses the principal's message and anything else that the buildings wish to put there. I have access to an activities and club link. The one thing that I can showcase a little bit later is that this one right now is in gray and italics because it is currently hidden. we're not posting content that we have really nothing for yet. And being that we are in the middle of all of this, with students not being there, I turned off the clubs and activities right now until they return. So we will cover a little bit later today, hopefully, how to turn that back on if you should want that on the menu. And then lastly, you'll notice that you have the tab Parents and Students and that item I mentioned earlier, School Newsletters. These are basics that almost every one of you has, unless you are a departmental webmaster, in which case you'll see a slightly different page tree with different types of content, but they're all page structured. So it all looks the same. And if I click on any of these items, it will take me directly into the editor. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go into the editor for the Beaumont homepage. And if I click on that, I'll notice the top is a feature that is essentially the alert for school closings and any other information we're sharing at the district level or at the school level. These alerts are controlled by Kelly and myself and our team. So typically, I'll just ask that while you do have access to edit this, you leave this component alone at the top because we don't want it to go away. It doesn't look like this in the public view. It actually comes as a pop-up on the window. But if this is expired or deleted in some way, it will not show up with the rest of the district items. So that leaves open the question, what if I accidentally do something? There are a lot of safeguards in this tool that if you accidentally hit a button, like hide, it's going to actually give you confirmation before you do it. So if you just hit it wrong, you'll just say no, right? But in the event that you do mess something up, Kelly and our team are available for any questions that you might have at any point. Just send us an email or give us a call, and we'll be able to help put much of that back if something does. I don't want anybody to be terribly worried about making a mistake. So then we get to our basic homepage, and again, none of this really gets edited. The editing parts are sort of outlined by this red outline here. So the Beaumont description, which comes in part from the annual education report, that messaging is consistent. If buildings wish to change that, I'm going to just practice by showing you how to change an item. And you'll just simply click edit, and it will open that feature of the website right here, and you can edit the text as you would normally in a Word document. You have a lot of the same features up here. What I would say is that for the formatting purposes, file font size and font design, if there's something already there that's already structured, please leave the sizing. Kelly and I have talked about this extensively about just making sure that we are, in order to be ADA compliant, we have to make sure that there is consistent across the board of sizes for headings, for example, and for text. So all of this is set. The only thing I can envision in much of this you're going to change is what it may say, if your building wishes to change any of this. This may not be an item right now that's a priority for you to change, but if it is, that's one way. Further down here under School Overview, you can click Edit on this box also and do the same thing. You'll notice that the School Overview is listed here with a lot of different features. Let's see. The items at the left, the social media icons, those are updated by our team. So if something happens where you get a Facebook page or something changes, you have to just let one of us know so that we can, this is all done in code. So I will ask that you obviously not touch those items unless you have a question, you can let us know. Anything in gray is a box that is here like on the left. These are something that right now this is actually hidden. So actually, I'm not certain why that's hidden on most pages that's down here. So in this case, I'm going to delete this. But if there is an item that's in gray, you'll notice that it's probably hidden for some reason. It is not viewable by the public, even though the page is currently published. You'll notice also there's an extra feature for a lot of items when you go to delete. It says not just yes, but you have to check to confirm that you want to delete this, and then it will delete the content. Okay, moving further down the page, you have your two-way view. You have your calendar view and your events, and if you want to change the look of that, you just grab the bottom portion of these items. You can edit the calendars here. There won't be much editing to do in the calendar here. There's actually when you're adding events, you're going to do that in a different place. This is actually to edit how many events occur in the stream, for example. I just want to showcase this, even though you may not touch this very often. If you look at the calendar settings right now, it's showing you that this calendar is displaying Beaumont and the district calendar combined as a blend. These are the other calendar choices if you wanted to add other calendars to your building, but for now we've determined that for consistency, we just really want the building and the district calendars showcased. Down below, you'll notice just the different formatting options, which again, you're not going to really need to adjust. The number of dates to display. If you happen to notice, for example, that right now this is a really large number, so we maybe want between 6 and 10 events, to shrink this calendar up because the calendar is the only thing that's currently making this page as long as it is. But the user does have the ability, of course, to see it in both ways. So questions about anything I've covered? I'm going to use this as a pausing point because before I go into resources and news. Kelly, do you have anything to add at this point?
No, not at this point. I think I'm fine.
Okay, we'll jump to resources. I'm going to show you here. This is a really good place to show you where you're going to add links. If you have links, I'm going to show you one possible place to add files. This is probably the most common place you will add links. And I'm not talking about your newsletters, but links to different resources. So if I edit this resource, I'm currently on this resource tab, and if I click edit under here, keep in mind that there are two parts to some of these. The header part, which you can edit, which is essentially in this case the title, or you can edit the body, and the body is really where you want to focus. So if I click edit here, it will take me to the box where I can actually edit the links in a text format like Microsoft Word. If I was going to add a resource, for example, a PDF document to whatever it happens to be, and I'm just going to use an example, I might drop this down or start at the bottom and go down one line. One thing you should know about most of this is that if you hit enter, it drops it naturally down, leaving a space between the items so that they would look more like this, like this. What we really want for most of this is to have them shrunk together. Instead, if I had an item that I was going to go to the next line, if I hold the shift key and I hit enter, it drops down right into the next line, so it keeps them sort of together. That's a kind of a trick that maybe you're already used to or familiar with in Microsoft Word or other places, but that's one of the ways. It's not a big deal if for some reason you make a mistake and it's down one line, but you can shrink it up using the shift key and enter to drop it down a line. So in this case, if I wanted to add a PDF, I definitely like these PDF icons to be consistent. We're using the same one, and you can actually produce that icon if you're using a resource by doing one of two things. If there are already existing copies of it here, the easiest way is to click on one of them and copy it and go down to your next line and right-click, copy, right-click, paste. Or you can use the keyboard commands. In this case, it says that the browser doesn't support that, so I have to use hold Control and hit the V key on my keyboard, and it produces another item. It's a little bit tricky sometimes. It won't, if you can't find the cursor, if you click on this item and then arrow once to the right, the cursor will produce itself. And then I can type in sample PDF document. In this case, I want to link to something else on my website that's not currently there. So if I highlight this text, I have a series of options up here with what I want to do with this content. I can add a link to another location on a web page somewhere else. I can update this link by adding an existing file I have on my computer. In most cases, you may do this. If you hover over any of these, they tell you what they do. I can link to another page in the menu navigation. So if I were going to click here, it would show me everything on the school district website, and I can link to any one of those items by pulling it out with the plus or minus keys. So if I wanted to link, for example, to the Alumni Connection, I could simply OK these boxes, and that link will become an active link to the alumni place. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. The last item, it's a little glitchy here. The last item is an email. If you wanted this to be an email to somebody, you click this link, and you could actually type in their email address here and say OK, and it would draft an email to this person when someone clicked on it. Those are the multitude of ways. What I want to do is show you specifically how to update this as it were a file on your computer. So if I'm going to click the second one, link to file, I have multiple options. I can search by district category about files that are already in place. If someone at another building, for example, is using the same file I know about, I may want to use one of their files. I can search by category. I can also search by text. I can type in annual education reports come up when I type in AER. Every AER that's currently on the website is listed here, so I can locate the file that way. or I can upload my own file. And in this case, I want to add this to my own building by category. So if I were a Beaumont person, I would be adding my file to the Beaumont category. Down here in the bottom right corner, there's an Add File button. And I do want to pause for a minute. A lot of the stuff I'm going over is included in the multi-page document that you have attached in the Webmaster resources on the intranet from Foxbright. It walks you step by step through this. So while many of you might be writing down notes about how to do this, a lot of this stuff is in that document as well. So if I click this button, Add File, I have to click a file category. I'm not quite sure why I don't have a file category there. It should say Beaumont, but I will have to check that. And then I can select new file. So I can pick my file on my computer if I have a PDF. If I click that here, I'm going to add this. And of course, it's not going to let me because I don't have a category, which I'm not certain why. I'm going to have to look at that. That may be an adjustment on everybody's part, something I'm learning here. In any event, that would become an active link if I chose that option. And it would look like the link above it. Questions about adding a link to a page, to a file, to an email address, or to an external website? The last thing I want to show you about a lot of these boxes that appear on a variety of pages is, in this case, we won't change this one permanently, but there is an expand and collapse option. So if, for example, if you're looking at the district website, I'm going to show you one on the public side first. If you're looking at the 2020-2021 academic year, you'll notice that there's a lot of different blocks here. We call each of these blocks, and they're what they call expandable, which means I can click them to open them, but they don't actually showcase by themselves, making the pages shorter. In that same spirit, I could, back to the right window, I could change this to one of those features, put a title here, and it would become a dropout box. One of those blocks that is an expandable item. This is the feature here, is where you change that from something that just shows everything on the page like this, or something that has a pop-out box. Questions about what I've covered so far?
Chris, I can't.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's Lisa. I can't see your screen anymore.
Oh, okay. I guess
Yeah,
it did go off. I don't know what happened. Okay. Was everybody able to see me navigating to the academic year page?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you see it again now?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay.
Do you have a document that helps us? I mean, I've taken a couple of notes, but I know by the time I'm ready to actually go attach something, I might forget it.
Sure. So let me just briefly show you that on the intranet under Webmasters here, when you log on,
Quick guide.
yeah, there are 3 documents. One, a quick guide, which is sort of following the training today. This one is actually the longer document. It looks like this. This is developed by the Foxbright company, and they have pictures and sort of how you do each item if you want to do any of these items.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're more than welcome. Okay. While this is not, of course, a box where you would do this, I do want to use this space to show you that if you're in a block on a page that maybe you've created where you want to add an image, I want to show you that really quickly from this viewpoint, and then we'll get to the other viewpoint later. If I was in this place and I wanted to just put a small picture there, and you'll notice in parts of our website there are some small pictures. There are some items up here where you can add other features. Specifically, this PDF icon I got from this item here where it says Select Font Awesome Icon. You can choose from a variety of different fonts that will be showcased on your page if you have a specific item you want to showcase. You can also, although I would ask that you limit yourself on the amount of colors you're changing, you can change the color of this item. So for example, if I wanted to put a star in there, I could choose the star. I could say that I want it to be a normal size, so not large, but normal. And if I wanted to change it to a purple color, I could do that. And you'll see that when I click OK, the star shows up. So these are options. If you're showcasing something really important, maybe for a while you want to showcase something, we'll just ask you to please be careful with the number of colors you're using, because a lot of the colors are not ADA compliant. And we don't obviously want to get dinged for an ADA compliance issue.
If I could just interject in that part too, I do think that only using color when absolutely necessary. Also be sure to stay away from the really bright colors and the yellows. That's just kind of a quick way to get yourself into the ADA compliance issue. We do have monthly updates that will come to us and flag any errors. So if you were to put a purple star on and animate it and make it dance all over the page, and then one day you go on and it's not doing that anymore, that's because received information that there is a compliance issue and we've gone in and changed it. So certainly if there is something important you want to draw attention to, I would utilize it for those purposes, but we want to try to avoid the animation and any really bright colors.
Yeah, and I would also add to that that red is an absolute color you should avoid at all costs. We use that for district alerts, really only something that is one time or something that's critically important. If I wanted to add a picture that was either on my computer or already in the image repository, so to speak, you could click this item. If I wanted to add a picture to this document here, you can click to browse the images that you might have. For example, this morning I was posting pictures of all of the candidates that are running for our Student Council Executive Board in next week's election. So you could choose from any files here, again by category, or you can add a file the same way I did before, where you're adding a file and choosing a category, and of course I do need to look at that. And then you're selecting whatever picture you might have on your computer to insert there. So if I were to do that from my computer, I'm just going to use this as an example. If I chose a picture and say okay on this, it will show me the picture in the right pane here, big. It will show you the full size of the photograph, and in many cases that photograph is such a high resolution that it's huge. It's going to automatically fit it to the page unless you want it even smaller. We typically like to keep them relatively small to the page so that they're not taking up the full size, especially if you consider some people are on their phones, and so that picture might be a longer time for them to scroll down the page. So you can manually adjust this. If I wanted this picture, for example, to be only 100 width, it's going to keep the ratio of the photograph unless you change it here by unlocking it. It'll keep the ratio, so when you change the width, the height will change with it, and it will put it there. You can also set the photograph to be either on the left side of the text or the right side. So in this case, maybe I want it to float right. So I'll say right with padding, and if I hit OK, it's going to remind me up here that there is alternate text required. If this graphic is not something decorative in nature, but it is actually containing some kind of information. So in this case, this contains a student candidate for office. I would be required in this box here where it says alternate text to type something about this photograph. So in this case, I might write student candidate. Okay. If it is decorative, you can avoid this field by just checking the decorative box, and it will let you insert it. But try if it does have content of some kind that a visually impaired person that was accessing the website is using a screen reader to access. They would need to be able to read what this photo actually is, a description of it in part. So if I click this now, it will let me insert, and you'll notice that the image floats to the right. I can actually click and drag this up the text box if I want it higher, and it can move around within that set space. Questions on essentially inserting any type of link, or general questions about adding a single picture or two to a block?